It's been a week since Nebraska last played a football game, and some of you still need a lot of help talking through it.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved.
All right, welcome. It's Friday here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Connor Happer here from 1620 The Zone. Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Nebraska Northwestern on Saturday morning at 11. Should be a nice, crisp fall morning / afternoon. Yeah. And then we will
it'd be cool.
We'll wrap it up either Saturday night or Sunday morning. So expect that in your feeds this weekend as well. But it's a big game and a big fork in the road game for Nebraska football. Good morning, Mitch.
Good morning. It absolutely is. Season can go one of two directions, which is basically what the fork in the road is defined as. I don't know that could be any more true when you arrive at this game and where Nebraska might be on Sunday if it's 6-2 versus what we'll be talking about if the Huskers are 5-3. So November will start either with people feeling pretty good about themselves after a rough into to October, or man, next week's going to be dicey.
Let's get to the mailbag questions. Here we go with Rusty in Arizona. Do you think the Minnesota game is validation to the Baker Miller pink study? It found that the tone of pink has been observed to temporarily reduce hostile, violent, or aggressive behavior. I'm not against supporting the fight against breast cancer. Good note. Just don't put pink on the face mask. What's the weather forecast for Saturday's game? I burn my hands to the steering wheel every summer. It's the cost of living in Arizona. Love the show. Keep up the great work. Rusty's everywhere. I like it.
A number of topics addressed there by Rusty. All right, so we'll just get to it right off the top. I mentioned, or you mentioned, that there's going to be a chill in the air. Right now, we're saying for Lincoln, Nebraska, tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, looking at temps in the 50s. So
be nice.
Maybe even a chance of a little chance of some sprinkles or something in the second quarter of the game around noon. So it's going to be a late October football in the Big Ten. Glad to hear that you have burned your hands on the steering wheel. Everything's good. I'm able to put the ring back on. So
good job.
And I'm done eating food out of the trash.
Diving anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I'm done with that. Got some George Costanza memes sent my direction this week.
Nice.
Maybe this is why this is validation that what Iowa does. Iowa still has the pink locker room for the visitors. That it's a factor. And Nebraska has not played well, although the Huskers did win 2 trips ago over to. Maybe I've had more success against Iowa and Iowa City recently than they have in Lincoln. But Iowa notoriously has the pink locker room. I do not believe that the pink face masks or socks, shoes, numbers, whatever that Nebraska had at Minnesota. I'm not having enough fun with this, that they impacted the non-violent, passive, and less than hostile performance from the Huskers on the field. No.
I'll say this. You know what? Let's just say yes. It is another reason why Nebraska didn't show up. They were not very hostile. They were docile in the game, clearly. And it's been talked about all week. And I think it's probably because they had to look at each other in warmups wearing, pink accents of everything. So it makes a lot of sense to me. I like the theory, Rusty. Thank you for sending it our way. I hadn't really thought about it yet. The pink jersey.
I will warn you, having read these questions, there's going to be a lot of this stuff.
Good.
This rehash and hand wringing that we're experiencing right off the bat.
It's good. Let's find all the reasons. Here's Tyler in Elkhorn. Hey guys, random question that doesn't relate to football. It kind of relates to football. A group of 6 to 10 of my good friends have gone on a road trip for a game every year for the last 5 years after graduating this year. And this year was Minneapolis. The other trips we have made have been Wisconsin twice, Michigan, and Iowa City. Do you guys have an all-time bad road trip that you've been on for a Nebraska football game specifically? We had great experiences on all our trips until Minneapolis last week, where we were verbally assaulted for an hour straight after the game and decided it was better to just go back to the hotel rather than enjoy our night downtown. We absolutely understand getting chirped by opposing fans, but this was so far beyond what we've ever heard. We heard nothing but the same from other friends that made the trip and Nebraska fans we ran into at the hotel that night and the morning after. And he'd also like to note, Tyler Wood, that him and his friends are 0-5 now on these trips.
I ran into somebody before the game who was the opposite of Tyler and had never been to a Nebraska game that the Huskers had lost, or like 15-0 or something to that effect.
How's it even possible?
I know. And maybe all the games were many, many years ago, but that came to an end on Friday night. I was out and about quite a bit, maybe more than normal. I was looking for the Emmett Johnson contingent of fans and friends and family, and in anticipation that maybe Emmett would have a big game and I could take my story writing in that direction. And I encountered very little hostility. Of course, I was not dressed in Nebraska red, but I was around people who were dressed in Nebraska red and didn't see much of that out on campus.
Yeah.
Dinkytown, as they call it down there by the U. Saw a little bit of like chirping back and forth, maybe from some students who'd made the trip up to the Twin Cities. After the game, I went into the Raising Cane's, which is like a block from the stadium, because I was hungry, and I ate late night food with some friends of mine who were dressed in red, non-media people, and we got nothing. Like no blowback, no feedback, like not even like recognition that we were there. So I don't know. Tyler must have been hanging out at the wrong place with the wrong people in the wrong hotel.
Well, I think group of younger gentlemen.
What are you saying about me here?
I'm just saying, like it's a little bit different.
True.
And I will say that my worst, it doesn't even count as a worst experience. Like it's just Nebraska football related. Like I went to the Nebraska Minnesota game in 2019. It was the second week of October, similar to what it was last week. And, it was horrible weather. It was sleeting, and that was the game where Scott Frost, of course, talked about the hoodies and and all that stuff. And Nebraska got drilled in the game, but I had a great time. Well, like all the people were really nice. I've only ever had good experiences with Minnesotans. I went to a Royals Twins game a couple years ago at Target Field, and I'm wearing my Royals stuff, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, oh you're a Royals fan," and I'm like, "Yeah, thank you for
so cute." That's you cheer for that team that never wins.
Yeah, they're great. So I've had positive even at Wisconsin, where they're notoriously like angry and stuff like that. Like I've had good experiences wearing red and things like that. So nothing bad, nothing crazy.
Yeah, it was worse in the Big 12 with Kansas State and Missouri and Colorado. I saw it and witnessed it and maybe was a little bit of a part of it a few years at Kansas State, because they would be mad at the media too when the game ended. Their fans were just tired of losing to Nebraska, and then when they started to beat Nebraska in '98 and for the next decade, they definitely had an attitude about that at K-State. So in Missouri, same kind of thing. I don't have a lot of bad experiences on the road. They generally involve like my travel or the weather if they're going to be bad. So I've had some of those, but you don't want to hear about that, Tyler.
All right,
you don't want to hear about the time I hit an armadillo on the road in the side of Texas and broke my rental car. So
there's another pod for that at some other time. We have a couple. Let's go to back-to-back Dylan related questions here before we take a break. Here's Aaron and Elkhorn. I think a lot of the local media, you guys, are very soft on Dylan Raiola. They are like, the media is working PR for the family. My thoughts: is that he holds the ball too long, doesn't climb the pocket, runs into defensive ends, and is seeing ghosts. I'm over him. He has had 20 games to win me over, and usually only impresses against non-conference teams and in a quarter here and there. I would love to see Latif get a chance. Spare me the talk about how the backup quarterback is always the most popular player. Have a mobile quarterback, especially with a bad offensive line, is big. I feel like with Raiola, we will go 2 and 3 at best in the last 5 games. So I'd rather roll the dice with a mobile quarterback that no defensive coordinator has seen yet. Without any injury to Dylan Raiola, we won't see a backup for the rest of the year. No matter how bad the starter is playing, no one will get in. That means either the staff has done a bad job or money plays and they don't want to upset the Raiolas. I don't know which is more depressing.
Yeah, kind of let Aaron go on there. We didn't edit that question really at all. Just to lay it all out there. I feel your pain, man. Like, some of the stuff that you say is legit. I don't think we're going to see a backup quarterback the rest of the year. There are times when Raiola fails to climb in the pocket or runs into pressure or has happy feet and trips over ghosts. So it's all true, but it's also true that he's the best option Nebraska's got to be able to make this offense work. And he just has to be more consistent and get better play from the 10 guys around him. Nebraska does not have a better option, including TJ Latif, which gets us. And hey, I hear you on the mobile quarterback stuff. I just don't think that it would go better for Nebraska if you inserted the freshman at this point. And there is also a question about TJ from Lane. We'll get to that quick. He says, is Nebraska going to redshirt TJ Latif? And are they worried about redshirts at all with the 5-year eligibility thing? So the 5-year eligibility thing is shot down for now. That's been put to rest. It's not happening this year. So they are back in the mode of considering where players are at in their 4-game playing status. And Latif has played in 2 games. So he's got 2 more plus the bowl game. Will we see him in 2 more? Perhaps. I don't think we'll see him, barring an injury to Dylan Raiola, play in 5 regular season games this year. So he's on the track to redshirt.
Yeah, on that, I don't think Nebraska's really worried about redshirts at all. To be quite
not so
honest.
much.
Yeah.
But in the situation where you have an opportunity to do it, you're not going to waste a year.
No, you're not going to blow it
and play a 5th game.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't make any sense to do that. So if they feel like a guy can help them, they'll play him. They're not. Let's just say this: they're not playing TJ Latif because they're trying to keep a year, right?
No.
Like that's not what they're doing. I want to say this about Dylan, and it's similar to what you said, Mitch. Like, he doesn't do all those things very well or very consistently. Climb the pocket, hold on to the ball too long. He's got to get it out. He needs some help around him, obviously. But there's a lot that's on Dylan Raiola's specifically shoulders. But I hope people know that he's also better than like 75% of the other starting quarterbacks around the country still. Like, and so I would rather have that than go into this foray of the unknown for a guy who's never played a college football game before. Like, you have an experienced quarterback. I'm willing to give him some leash to let him figure out. I don't know why nobody is around here. That it's shocking to me. You would think that he's earned some good grace, with his time here and his high profile recruiting nature and all that stuff, but he don't get none of it. And
I think the more that we hear from players and coaches, the more we hear them talk and come in front of the media, the more apt we are to just want to pile on top of those people. I don't know. It's just a theory. Like, we don't really, and that's not the case with Donovan Raiola. We'll hear later in the show about how some people feel about him, and he doesn't talk to the media at all during the regular season. So I don't know. Quarterback, head coach, like, they're going to take heat. That's just how it is, I guess.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be back after this.
We're now from Mazda. This is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward, brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing the game. It's about redefining it, because these moments do more than win. They push what's possible. They remind us to go the extra yard, shift into that extra gear, and keep the game moving forward. I want to talk about a difference maker for Nebraska this season. It is tight end Luke Lindenmeyer. He is a workhorse for Nebraska. He has shown that no matter the circumstances, he's set to keep moving forward. Contributions like Luke Lindenmeyer's keep fans and players alike moving forward, always chasing the next great moment. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Back with you on a Friday episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast, mailbag edition ahead of Nebraska Northwestern, Saturday, 11 a.m. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer answering your questions. We go to Scott in Windsor, Ontario. He says, I'm filled with bewilderment and incredulity. Incredulity. Botched it. It needs to be more fluid. This week over the Minnesota fiasco, how does the head coach of a P4 school not have his coaching staff in lockstep with his vision? How does he not have his team taking the opponent seriously? Is the head coach not 100% invested and emotionally and mentally present? I'm not buying it. Are you?
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't mean to, because when I say stuff like this, people are like, well, you just don't care as much. And maybe you're right about that. But like, can we chill out? They lost a game to a good team on the road on a short week coming back from the East Coast. Like, I don't know. If it happens again, then we're talking about, wow, this is a problem. We got to really discuss it. Like, I think there's a lot of reasons why, Nebraska didn't play up to its standard on Friday night. But I don't know. I'm willing to see what happens on Saturday to figure out if we need to make any sweeping statements about it.
Yep, that's fine. It's one game. It was a bad game.
Yep.
A very bad game.
Yep. One
very bad game. I don't think we're in a place to question whether the coach is 100% invested because of what happened there on Friday. Let's go to Chris in Denver. He says, it seems like our offensive scheme is too complicated. A lot of guys who don't know the plays, line up wrong, or mishear calls.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I think, Dylan, the quarterback Dylan Raiola, he has a lot on his shoulders, just in terms of the reads he has to make and the checks he has to make, whether it be before the play or during the play. I would love to see them make it more simple for him in the passing game. Tone it down to one or two options, right? Instead of having all the options to do everything on every play, or straight, 5-step dropbacks and stuff like that. Like, I've likened it this week to, I would love to see them basically do the football equivalent of run a half-court set, right? You're literally trying to orchestrate a play instead of there's this freedom to kind of make decisions and have options and all these different things. It's great when it all is working in concert, but Nebraska needs they need a spark right now. And there's just a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, I think there's some truth to that, Chris.
Back to the state of Colorado. We love our Colorado listeners and viewers. This is Chad. Do you think having the best facilities, resources, and support has made Nebraska a softer team? Have we lost some of the edge and toughness needed to compete with Iowa and Minnesota?
Well, I don't know. Take Iowa and Minnesota out of it. I do think there's probably like a little bit of truth to that. I mean, Rhule sort of hinted at
the entitlement question.
Yeah, it's not like, well, they have to get rid of all that stuff so they can be good again. Like, no, that's not it. Nebraska has to just kind of settle in and focus on the right things. But yeah, I think there's probably some truth to the idea that Nebraska has a lot of great things, and you get treated really well as a student athlete at Nebraska, and that's not going anywhere whether you win or lose. And so, yeah, it's different than a lot of other places.
You know where else they get treated really well? Ohio State. They get treated really, really well at Georgia and Alabama and Michigan, and programs that have won the national championships in the last few years. And you can say that there are circumstances at those places that are different because they have unbelievable competition that drives the players, and you're probably right with that. But this isn't like this is not like the magic pill of things to say, well, Nebraska players just have too much nice stuff, and that's causing them to be soft. There have been plenty of times in seasons, even over the last couple of years, where Nebraska has not looked soft. And it's not because the Huskers stepped away from their locker room for a week and, didn't enjoy the resources. So there's a lot that goes into it. I think sometimes you can look at that and say they didn't have to work hard enough for what they got, but I don't think it's a big piece of the puzzle. Let's go to Vince in Napa. Happy Friday, fellas. Thanks for having me as a part of the program. How much would it help the pass protection issues if Nebraska committed more to the run game and got Dylan Raiola to get rid of the ball quicker? Seemed to help against Maryland.
A lot. That would help a lot. By the way, Vince, great area of the country that I was in your town, in your neck of the woods last weekend. Great times out there. Drinking some wine. That's where I was. Yep. But yes,
good point.
They should definitely do that. They should get the run game going and get the ball out quicker. I agree.
It should definitely do that. I like it. Yeah. Tell Dana, can we get a straight line to Dana Holgorsen? You should definitely do that. From Kyle and Blair, when is the coaching staff going to realize that Emmett Johnson is someone we need to lean on to take pressure off the pass game? This is similar to Vince. Yeah. Also, Mitch, would it still be bad for Nebraska if Emmett Johnson eclipses 1,000 yards? Love the show. I listen every day. Bringing my words back against me. I did say that I thought it would be better for Nebraska if Emmett was under 1,000 yards for the season, because I was talking at that point, maybe around the Cincinnati game, about Nebraska needing to develop depth at the running back spot. At this point, it's Emmett's show. Like, I apologize. I publicly apologize. Yeah, I publicly apologize to Emmett Johnson for any belief that I may have had in his lack of ability to be the workhorse in this offense. He's shown that he can do it, and if he gets to 1,000 yards, then no, that's not a bad thing for Nebraska, especially sitting over 700 yards with 5 games to go. I think it would be good for Nebraska if Emmett got to like 1,200 or 1,300 yards, but that isn't how I saw it going into this season.
Kyle, it needs to be less of a game to game thing, and more of a consistent thing, right? They have been, and this maybe answers a lot of the other, pass protection and Dana related questions as well. The idea that Nebraska should go away from here's what I think they're going to throw at us, and here's where their strengths are, and so we have to do this to counteract that, and more of we just got to do what we do best. We got to figure out. I mean, it's identity, and it's a tired word because we've been talking about it for the last decade plus, but I think there's a lot of that right now, and having Emmett Johnson back there is a really good place to start. I still think it's a pass to set up the run offense, but when you run, you have to do it with a more consistent nature, and game script is important and all that stuff too. So I'm not saying that you have to just ignore all that stuff. You're not one of those teams, but yeah, I absolutely, you got to commit to it.
It would be much better for Nebraska if it's able to take stock of this now, and then when the Huskers are getting ready for a bowl game, they could say, we figured that out in the middle of the year, that we just needed to worry about our stuff and not be reactive to the other team. It'd be much better if they could say that in December, as opposed to saying it in March in spring practice, when you're looking back at the 2025 season as a whole and say, hey, moving forward into 2026, one of the things we have to do is not be so reactive to the other team. So the hope is you figure it out on the fly, like after 7 games, and it doesn't take an entire season to have the correct perspective.
All right, one more break. We'll be back and finish this Friday pod out after this.
We have a message for you from DoorDash because it is almost the weekend. Some might say the weekend is already here. It's Friday. Time to look back again and recognize an MVP who delivered this week, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players who we feature in this segment delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. For Nebraska this week, Javen Wright delivered in a big way with a team-high 12 tackles last time out. No hesitation, no delay. If you've been watching week after week, this performance was not a fluke. Javen Wright, Nebraska's seventh-year senior linebacker, is on a streak. And just like Javen delivered for Nebraska, DoorDash delivers for you on Saturday. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every time you order. Stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th.
And a quick word from the FanDuel Sportsbook. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, the football weekend has indeed arrived, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for it with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So, okay, here's your plan, actually. You go moneyline winner on game one of the World Series tonight. You pick one, whatever your pick is, Toronto or the Dodgers, and you take that $5 bet, you win it because you're smart. I know you'll pick the right team. And then you use your $300 in bonus bets across the app all weekend to bet on college games and NFL games. It sounds like a great plan to me. So anytime touchdown scores, same game parlays, it's all there for you on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Head to FanDuel.com right now. Download the app, FanDuel.com, and place your first $5 bet today. All right, welcome back. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you. Let's go to Nick in Portland, Oregon. Good one. I realized that we should celebrate because we finally beat a top 25 team. We were 25th ranked and we beat ourselves. Good one, Nick. I like that.
Yeah, he says got to look for the humor. Otherwise, it's just sad.
Yep, agreed.
Nebraska can put that in their notes.
I like
beat a top 25 team.
Here's John in Sioux Falls. Oh, this is a good question. What is the likelihood that Troy Danon already knows what Matt Rhule is going to do about the Penn State job?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't think it's very likely, but I do think that like there is there is like an undercurrent of thought that maybe that's the case, and maybe Rhule has already gone to Danon and said, look, if he's told him what he's going to do, realistically, it's that he's going to stay. I don't think that Rhule has gone to Danon and said, hey, I'm out.
Right.
I'm out. Although to me, that's what John is insinuating. Like, could Danon, is it possible that if you were Troy Danon, and just like the way that college football works today, coaches don't leave mid-season. Like I heard somebody say this week, like if he's going, he just needs to go. Like poop or get off the pot. You need to just go. And it would make it easier on Nebraska to then start to search for what it's going to do next. And while in theory, I agree with that, that is not how college football works. Like you're not going to put in 2.5 years on this thing and then say, I'm going to be out in December, so I'm just going to cut this short anyway. That would be something if Rhule had gone to Danon and was like, hey, I really want this. And if they offer it to me, I'm going to take it. That would help Troy Danon. It would put him in a good spot. Unfortunately, it's just not the world that we live in college sports. So the only way that Danon would know is if Rhule has gone to him and said, yep, I'm staying, but I'm going to try to play this card that I've got to use some leverage and raise money. But that only works for so long that you cannot do that for like 6 weeks as the anxiety builds. So I don't think he knows. I don't think that Danon knows. I think he's prepared for whatever happens, but I do not believe he knows.
Yeah. And people have to kind of accept, if he leaves, it puts Nebraska in a tough spot. There's no like mitigation factors that we could use here to be like, oh, well, maybe if you just told him, like, no, it's just going to be hard.
Also, Danon's going to have a sense of what he thinks might happen, what might happen. And if he gets to a place in November, or if he's there right now where he believes that Matt Rhule is ready to take that job, whether Rhule has told him that or not, and likely not, then he's going to start thinking about what he might have to do last week in November.
Why aren't Dane Key and Ja'Cory Barney getting open from Singin' Rabbit on YouTube?
I think they are getting open at times, especially Key. There have been a lot of times where Key's been open and Dylan has either not seen him or just missed him. But like, it's hard to get open in the Big Ten. We talked to Audrey Snyder Thursday on the show, and she talked about how Penn State went into the portal and spent a bunch of money on receivers. And for Drew Aller in that first half of the season, they weren't getting open again. Like they were getting open against Villanova and whoever it was that Penn State tried to prop up as an opponent in the non-conference. But then as soon as they got into the Big Ten, those receivers weren't getting open. So it happens to good receivers when you play in the Big Ten. That's some of what's gone on with Barney, I think, in the last couple of weeks. But with Key, yeah, he's getting open more than he's getting the ball.
My biggest thing with Dylan is this. Everybody complains about a variety of different things, and you hear it. We've heard it during this podcast. My biggest consistent problem with Raiola is that a guy has to be open in order for him to throw it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's not how it works. There's going to be times where it looks like they're not open and you just have to throw it anyway. I think that is definitely something that's going on with those two receivers right now. You gotta just trust them, get them the ball and trust them. And, if you throw a pick, so be it. But you gotta force those guys the football for sure.
Great quarterbacks throw their receivers open.
Yeah.
We have 3 questions in a row that I want to group together because we're running short on time. So these are all about the press conferences this week. It's from Nate. Listening to John Butler on Tuesday got me thinking, because he wasn't my choice as the DC a year ago. Do you think his lack of experience led to the snafu last Friday and is cause to look elsewhere going into next season? From Jake in Fremont, watching the press conference, it appears that the players and coaches are pissed off. Are they angry at the right people, or are they doing a Bo Pelini figment of the imagination technique? How far do you think they might be from a toxic mentality? Remember, Rhule shared earlier that Dylan was yelling at the home fans. And from Patrick in Pilger, Nebraska, is it just me, or was the demeanor of the players and the coaches this week at the press conferences off? Besides maybe Dana Holgorsen, the attitude and demeanor was not what I was expecting. The body language and tone was mellow, almost defeated, like Minnesota took the life out of this season.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they lose,
I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing at your suggestion. I'm laughing at like just how dark we've gotten.
If they lose to Northwestern on Saturday, people are going to look back at this week and say, "Wow," And if they win on Saturday, nobody's going to be talking about the stuff that they said or didn't say in a press conference this week. So that's just always the way it goes. I really don't care. I don't think it affects it that much and how they play on Saturdays. Nebraska's just got to go out and do it, and they're certainly capable of it. We'll see what their mentality is. I think this has been a good, sort of come together experience for them this week, but I guess we'll see if that plays out Saturday.
I'm not in favor of Nebraska looking elsewhere at this point for a defensive coordinator next season. Like, you need to try to have some continuity at that spot. I think we need to
may have led to what happened on Friday, though.
Yeah.
There's some truth to that.
This is where Phil Snow is supposed to come in. This is where the we haven't talked about him in a long time. This is where the experience that Addison Williams has as a DC and Matt Rhule's experience in coaching defense is supposed to come in. Like, they're supposed to be able to help John Butler through that moment where he decided to get less aggressive after the 71-yard run. There was a lot of game left. There was 3 quarters left. So if there was a problem, it's not entirely on John Butler. Like, it's on others too to see that and say, hey, JB, like, get this fixed. Like, we need to be aggressive. Like, stop the short crossing routes. Don't let them drive 98 yards. The thing to remember too, these press conferences, we talk about them a lot, like on Tuesday and Wednesday on our entire shows. They are like 1 hour combined out of the week of these Nebraska players. And I don't think that what we heard from them is necessarily reflective of what was going on behind the scenes in Nebraska football this week. They were getting asked questions about Minnesota and about Matt Rhule's comments from Monday. So they answered the questions, and thank you for doing that. Okay. Some O-line stuff. This is from Bradley. He says, Mitch, you've said that Donovan Raiola's family ties, especially with Dylan in the program, make him untouchable. But his Nebraska O-line is dismal in pass protection and in run blocking. What could put him on the hot seat? Are you holding back on calling for his dismissal to protect your access? No. And I don't know that he's untouchable. Like, nobody's untouchable.
No.
But I do think that, like, because of the circumstances there. Like,
in my mind, he's on the hot seat. I mean, like,
right.
Yeah, they gotta build and develop an offensive line. And if they don't feel like he's the right guy to be doing that going forward, then regardless of if the quarterback's his nephew or if the committed quarterback's his nephew, then you got to do what you got to do for the football program.
Right.
I don't think that they think that they're there yet. But I do think everybody's sort of watching, how does this thing progress over the next several games here?
Yeah. 2 more on the O-line. That's a good answer. He's not untouchable. From Greg in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, was Rhule not an O-line coach with the New York Giants? Can't he help Donovan? And then from Zach, I hope the Minnesota debacle starts to open your eyes to stop drinking the Rhule-aid. He is well known for hiring mediocre to terrible performing coaches and then taking too long to fire them. Donovan, he changed offensive coordinators mid-season last year, but that's my input. Donovan Raiola is not experienced as a coach. This is his first OL coaching job, same as Garrett McGuire the past couple years. Perhaps Nebraska can hire an offensive tackle specialist, similar to hiring Brett Maher to come in and coach the kickers and punters. Maybe there's a former Nebraska OT who can teach effective pass pro. That's what I would do immediately if I were Rhule.
Did you guys know that that Kurt Cignetti had never been a Power 5 coach before? He took over Indiana, and now he's 18-2 over his first 20 games.
Yeah, you don't have to be experienced in order to succeed at a job, but I understand the point that Zach has. Rhule is probably not going to step in and coach the offensive line. He's busy as a head coach, and that's why he trusts these assistants to do it. But, he'll come over and spend more time with them if needed. He tried to do that with special teams last year. The better scenario is that you have someone who's fully equipped to do it. And I do think that, like, bringing in a coach who can work specifically with the offensive tackles is a good idea, and that Nebraska should look at doing that, if not in the offseason, like right now, to give Raiola some support. And he has support with Aaron Koling, who's an assistant O-line coach, but Aaron has been there for a few years. He's been there since the Frost years. And they're still struggling with this in particular at the tackle position, and not just to play the tackle position effectively, but I would say to recruit and develop at that position.
Yeah. I watch for the communication and stuff like that, because there's only so much you could do during the season. That stuff's got to get better. Here's Adam. I've stepped away from the ledge after the last debacle, and I've come up with 2 questions. One, as you interact with Husker fans, do you sometimes feel like mental health therapists? Yes. 2, what reasons can you give for the fans to be hopeful on Saturday for the rest of the season, given that Matt Rhule's teams have gone 1-9 in games when trying to get bowl eligible, 1-3 against interim coaches, and 1-7 in November? Yeah, Adam, sounds like you really stepped off the ledge here. Thanks for letting us vent for all you do for the greater good.
You hosting a 4-hour talk show every day during the season does not do anything to.
It hardens me. Yes,
it doesn't do anything to invalidate your theory that you are just a mental health therapist. Adam from Kansas is from the same town as Nathan. They don't know each other, apparently, somehow. Colwich, wow. Kansas. There can't be that many people there. Here's the map, Nathan's map. Nathan, the map maker, United States, looking full. Love it.
Look at that.
Love it. And there's the world map. We got representation from all over the globe. Nathan is the last question in the mailbag today. And he says, I put this last on purpose. Let's switch to a glass half full approach. Spin me a narrative on why fans should still be optimistic on the direction of the season and what we can accomplish over the last 5 games.
For the exact same reasons that everybody felt really good about this team 8 days ago. You have a good quarterback, you have good wide receivers, you have a defense that had been pretty solid. and needs to sort of get its head on straight. And it's really the same thing with the offense. So a lot of reasons Nebraska can absolutely still get to. They're not going to the playoff at this point, but nobody's really thinking about that anyway. So this could be an 8-9 win team, and I picked them to win 8 before the season started. So I still expect them to be there.
A lot of fun potentially still out there. Get through Northwestern, and you're going to feel a lot better about Nebraska's chances against the California teams that are coming up on the schedule. Those could be a couple of really interesting games. And then, of course, you have Penn State and Iowa. So, like, all hope is not lost. It looks dark when things are bad coming off of a terrible loss, but it can switch just as quickly as it did a week ago. All right, that's it. We're over time. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Big Ten. Craig is there. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.